Good day, dear friends. Welcome to this episode of Managing with the Heart. This series began in April and was supposed to last for 4 weeks. However, with your overwhelming response, we were left with no choice but to continue. Thank you for your support and comments that fueled the perpetuation and improvements of this series that bring together iconic leaders in a live conversation setting, tackling topics of how to build resiliency in businesses, society, and personal as well as family life. Co-hosting this series are Mr. Kamlesh Patel, affectionately known as Daji, who is the global guide of the Heartfulness movement and a silent changemaker teaching and guiding to meditate in the heartfulness way in over 160 countries. And Dr. Icha Kadizis, a world-renowned simplifier of management principles. He is an educator at heart, but also ensures that these principles are put into practice in a way that they stick. Having served some of the major corporations and country leaders that include 8 prime ministers, an author of 26 books translated into 36 languages, he is also a heartfulness meditation practitioner and trainer. Today, we are very pleased to welcome our special guest, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, a member of Parliament and currently the Indian Prime Minister's Sherpa for G7 and G20. Since 1996, Mr. Prabhu has been actively serving in the government and the public of India, as well as leading international bodies in various senior capacities. A very hearty welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
They will together explore the subject of the role of the heart in politics and public life. And to get the ball rolling, Dr. Deeses, I request you to please take over and off we go.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I tried to find the questions so I can put them on my screen. Thank you. We're very happy to have you, Mr. Prabhu, and Tajir and myself have been leading this discussion, and now we're going to focus, with your help, on how to manage with the heart government. I think that's going to be a very interesting challenge. And the question I would really like to start with Mr. Prabhu is, what do you understand is how to manage with the heart? How can a government manage with the heart? What does it mean to you?
You know, it's a very interesting question. In fact, the government is at the heart of the modern society because government is chosen by the people to manage, administer, regulate the activities of the society as a whole, which in turn will ensure that each person can live happily, in harmony, in peace, and also hopefully prosper in point of time. But to do all that, the government have a challenge because, as you said, government, you asked me about a heart, but I will say government has to have a soul to first begin with. Because government is a body, and if the soul is not very powerful, the body won't function well. And therefore, the soul of the government lies in the policies of the government and the leadership of the government. As you know, the brain directs the entire body functions, but the brain also can function only if there is a soul. So the leadership matters a lot. And therefore, today we are very lucky to have a leader like Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is actually driving the apparatus of the government, but also in the process bringing in a lot of energy into this whole apparatus called government, the entire edifice of government. And therefore, the heart of the government lies in the policies, in what it delivers, in how people benefit from it. Because at the end of the day, people have appointed the government, and the government job, responsibility, duty, and primary function is to deliver something which is good for the people, as we call it public good. So public good by definition has to be good, but also has to be for public. And therefore, if you can deliver it for public in adequate manner, I think that's what means that your heart is at the right place. Because heart job is to get all the bad blood into it and bring back the good blood into the body system. So the same way, all the ills of the society must come to the government, and government refines them, reforms them, and sends it back as a good policy measures, which actually hopefully transform the society over a period of time. Right now, we are going through a very painful process globally. All the global governments are under serious siege because on one hand, they have to save lives, but also difficult job is to also save livelihoods. So this is a trade-off between life and livelihood. Now, if you don't have a heart, you will not think about lives. You can only think about probably livelihood. So if you have to have heart at the right place and it must function in the right manner, and whatever arteries which actually connects us to the heart are the arteries which actually gives us the feedback of the people. How people feel, what they want, how to respond, what we should try to do. I think if we can do all that, I think that means the heart of the government is there. In fact, it is always said that peace of the heart lies in the heart of the hearts. So if you really look at it, your heart, if really functioning well, you will promote peace in the world. You will ensure that people are happy and try to work on that. So I think that is what, in my opinion, is the role of the government.
Before I react to that, because it's a very interesting point you made, we'll get Taji. How about you?
Well, I love this comparison of government having a soul, live, throbbing government. Fortunately, we are lucky, as Shri Suresh Prabhuji has already stated, praising Prime Minister of a very high stature, very high order. We are lucky to have him to guide us. We can say he's a heartful leader. He has heart. He cares for the people. One who sacrifices his life for the sake of others, that means he's full of compassion. This is the quality of the heart. See? There is, when we say government is what? Government is made up of leaders who would execute, create, execute, and deploy all these policies. So, in order for the policies to be manifested in a rightful way, in a heartful way in the society, the leaders will have to be heartful. Government cannot be heartful. Government cannot be alive and thinking. It is we who make the government alive, thinking, and heartful, pulsating. So the leader has to be pulsating, full of affection, full of compassion for the government, and he should be ready to sacrifice one's own personal interest. That means everything. India has never seen such a leader. I don't think even before, when the kings were there, etc., 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 such men were not present. This time, we are very, very fortunate to have a leader in him who is heartfully guiding the nation. Of course, politics ruins everything. It only retards the process. It slows it down. Politics often slows down the growth of a nation. And what happens to such heartful leaders who has a lot of heart? Their heart breaks. There will be crisis. If there is a resistance, what happens in the brain? Brain, suppose there is a resistance, there is a blockade in the brain. There is a blockade in one of the arms. There is a blockade in the heart itself, in the government itself. It will fail. Despite of having a great heart, despite of having a great leader who is heartful, because of resistances, political resistances, the deployment of great policies will fail. So I think everyone has to come on the same page for a country to flourish. Just as there is no world peace without individual peace. There is no happiness in the world unless and until everyone is happy. Likewise, we have to have leaders who are heartful. One single person will not do. There has to be kind of egregore. There has to be resonance. If you see what is happening in United States, some governors say, we will respect. isolation and we will maintain social distancing. Some governors said, no, we will not. And you see the result, there's a chaos there. In India also, some of the ministers at a state level, they're non-cooperative, and see what happens to the general public. They're always, irritating, the hurting wounds. Wounds are there, but such people will put acid over it, they'll put salt over it and make it more hurtful. So I think heartful government means heartful leaders who are resonating with each other, who have great resonance and understanding with each other. I'm done, sir.
Wow. Let me tell you why I'm saying wow to both of you. Because I think you're talking about what the government should be, what we want it to be. And I'm looking at what the government is. And I think that what I find the government, we have to divide it into two parts. The leaders, and then the millions of bureaucrats that are also government. And sometimes you wonder how both of them manage with the heart. And what I look at it, at what is, my experience is, well, what does it mean managing with the heart for me? Is that you don't look on the outside, the pressures from the outside. You look at the demands from the inside, values from the inside. That's why when we meditate, you close your eyes and you ignore the outside. You focus on the inside. Yes. And for politicians, it's very difficult to focus on the inside. They focus more on the outside because they have to be elected. I found something very interesting, and really, Mr. Prabhu, you are in the government, so you are from the inside. I look at it from the outside as an advisor. Many leaders of countries claim they have a strategy. And the newspaper explained their strategy. My experience is when I sit with the Prime Minister in four eyes, I find out a lot of their decisions are based on political pressures. And they have to maneuver political pressures in order to survive. And because they maneuver, that this pressure says this pressure says that pressure says that, at the end, the strategy is not what needs to be done, the strategy is what can be done. And then it is something not really what we thought about. It is what emerges because of the pressures that they are facing. They're facing pressures all the time. So really, if you really ask me, do they have a strategy? They have a strategy here. They have a strategy in the heart. What comes out is a result of pressures. And that is what the problem is, because they're very difficult to work with the heart when you have to stay in power. And to stay in power, you have to play the game. In Serbian, the language is, when you join a kolo is a circle dance, you have to dance. You cannot do what you think. You have to dance what the rest of the group is dancing, you know, you have to join the music. They have a very difficult time doing that, number one. And if they focus on what the people want, oh my God, you might get not a heart, you might get a disaster like Milosevic in Serbia and all this nationalism, the people, hoo-ha, hee-ha-ha, and we just do what the people want and we just go over the cliff into the oblivion. It's not so easy for a leader to manage with the heart because he has to remain in power, he has to play politics. Very difficult. He should do what's good for the people. He should. But in order to stay in power, he does what is good for him to stay in power. Now, for the millions of bureaucrats, it's a different story. Their challenge, why they cannot manage with the heart, they don't manage with the heart, is because The position gives them power. And power plays a real important role in their benefits. The salary is not really valuable. Salary for a bureaucrat is a salary. Mission, they don't know their mission. The only benefit they have is by being a bureaucrat. That's the only justification for their emotional satisfaction. So what do? Come again, you did not fill the right form, you did not do this, you did not do that. They make you go and jump through the hoops because that's the only reward system they have. So they again cannot manage with the heart. To manage with the heart, you need to violate some rules because the heart tells you. I'll give you an example and then I will stop. I landed in airport in Mexico City Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon, Mexico City is the worst time to land. Million of airplanes, everybody arriving. The line to go through the immigration is two lines: Mexicans, foreigners. Foreigners, I look at the line, oh my God. Minimum an hour and a half. I look at the Mexican this, it's finished. The booth is empty. Because I'm an Israeli, I always look for ways out. I just go under the roof. I went to the booth of the Mexican, but I'm not Mexican. I get my passport. He looks at me and says, but you're not Mexican. I said, but I'm a Mexican at heart. She laughed, she let me pass. This will never happen in Germany. This will never happen in England. Why? They go by the rules, back in line, I'm the boss here. They have a difficult. In Mexico, they do that with the heart because they violate the rules. Nobody follows the rules. The moment you start following the rules, forget the heart. They're following the rules, they're following the manual. That's very difficult for a government to manage with the heart. I repeat, for two reasons. A, politics, there is no heart. It is maneuvering. And power. What do you say, Mr. Prabhu?
This is a very fundamental challenge to democracy. Because in democracy, the people elect their governments. So you cannot just say that what people think is wrong, because if they think that what they are wrong, then obviously you are presuming that the government that elected is also wrong. So people want something, but not necessarily what they want is their need. It is something which always is possible that people want something, but what they need was something different. A mother knows exactly when child cries for milk at odd hours, she doesn't give child the milk because she knows, the mother knows, that child may be harmed by giving that milk at that particular point of time. Let him cry, she will be able to make him sleep properly, but will not give and cater to his wants at that time because she only caters to his needs. Now the challenge in democracy is, how do you convert wants into needs? How do you convince the people at large that what you are wanting is not necessarily what you need? And the role of leadership lies there. If the leadership has a clean heart, clear heart, understands exactly what the society wants, he uses his charisma, he uses his ability, he leads people to leads them from want to needs and doesn't get led by people. A leader who gets led by wants of the people cannot emerge as a great leader. You must convert the wants into needs by convincing people themselves through a process which is very painful, which is long, which requires a lot of imagination, it requires communication. But when it happens, you will see that there is government and the people are on the same wavelength. They understand each other. But as you correctly said, the heart has to be the right place. If the leader can actually make them move into that direction, you will see a transformation of societies. Otherwise, we'll see a decaying of societies. The society is transformed only when there's a shared vision. The leader has a vision which is able to communicate to the people, and then it becomes people's vision as well. So it's no longer a vision of the government or the leader, but it's a vision of the nation and the society which is shared by all. And when you have a shared vision, you will see some dramatic results. Because then you are not thinking, I am doing it for me. I will tell you a story, but not name the country for an obvious reason. I met a young girl when I had gone there as a minister to that country, and that girl was working all the time, morning, evening, and when we go to her office, as a minister's office, she will double as interpreter. End of the day, I ask, do you get the point that you're making? I said, how much overtime you get because you work like this? She was speaking in fluent English till I asked this question. Then she looked at me in complete exasperation. She didn't know what I was saying. So I explained to her what is overtime. And she told me, oh, you mean money? I don't work for money. I work for my country. Now just imagine if every person thinks that he is working for his country and therefore he has to contribute something in his own way. A sweeper thinks that he has to sweep well because this is a national task he's performing. Teacher thinks he has to teach well because he's thinking that I am producing citizens of tomorrow. A soldier thinks I have to do a job better and bigger than just what my uniform demands. And if I can do all that, each one can do that, that's a transformation. Now comes the second question of bureaucracy and rules. See, there is a common and always a very temptation to blame bureaucrats. But I am not a bureaucrat, but I worked with 10 different ministries, and I worked with number of bureaucrats who are exceptionally good people. And I will tell you something, that bureaucrats have a role to play. A leader has a right to change rules. The bureaucrats have a duty to obey rules. So he cannot change the rules. For example, giving the same example of Mexico's lines for Mexicans and non-Mexicans, if everybody, the person says, I will follow my own rules, then what is the need for making those two lines separately? There's no need. Anybody could stand whenever he wants, and this could happen. So unless you have a rule-based society, it is very difficult to rule a society. And a rule-based society demands that somebody has to implement the rules. And that's the job of a bureaucrat. It's a difficult job, but it's a job they perform. And if they don't do that job, there could be a chaos. Only thing is that the bureaucrats also must have a heart in the right place, because the rules are made. But doesn't mean the rules are so sacrosanct that you cannot understand the humanity behind it. If you understand the humanity, that is what the heart is all about, then it will really make all the difference. So I think what is important is, there was a very famous politician from my home state of Maharashtra, used to say that if the time comes when politicians learn to say no and bureaucrats learn to say yes, the country will be different. I think this is something which we must try to understand, that bureaucrats also must learn to understand the humanness, the challenges people are facing. The rules are made with a particular purpose. But when you're implementing it, you are implementing as a bureaucrat. Try to understand why the person is suffering, and you can change it. And I think that is why bureaucrats also must have that shared vision. The shared vision is something which is going to change the societies and the countries in a big way. Heartfulness is a vision, it's a shared vision. Daji, as a leader, has conveyed it to the people. And people know that if I follow this, I am going to be a happy person, a better person. And therefore, what is the success of a leader? Daji has been able to successfully communicate that to the people, billions of people all over the world, and that's why they're successful. What is the success of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? You'll be surprised. He has been able to share a vision of New India. Now we have said yesterday, day before yesterday, 2 days ago, a very interesting concept. He says Atmanirbhar Bharat, which doesn't mean isolated India, but it means self-reliant, self-confident, and forward-looking India. Now, there are different connotations to this idea, but a vision he has given in some frame. I think now we have to take different aspects of that and convey it to the people. If each and every citizen of India feels that it is his vision, do you think we'll not be able to make a different India? Every person in the family thinks that it's not my father's job alone to take care of the family. It's my combined responsibility. Those are the families which are happy families. Otherwise, I can always say what my mother has not done this, my father has not done this. The kids will criticizing the parents and parents will finding faults with the kids. That is not going to be a happy family. So I think this is what we need to do. And I think that is why I think the role of bureaucrats, role of politicians, role of a leader, role of a society, role of the citizens, all must get entwined into a common goal.
Well, I say only one sentence on this. Sense of belonging. Do I belong? Be it a family, be it a business world where you're working, or be you as a citizen admiring your country and say, I belong to this great nation. This is my country. I will contribute. You know, this evening I was listening to some Hindi rhymes, and they were so patriotic of nature. You know, Bharat Desh, Jai Hind, Jai Hind, Jai Hind, Jai Hind. And you know, in every house, when every little child is taught that I'm proud of my country, whether you are American or Italian or German, Indian, one has to be proud. If you are not proud of your own country, then you're a traitor. If you don't share the same common vision, though you may differ, it's good to differ. You may have differences of opinion, but when the main guide says, let's do this, and your heart agrees in many ways, follow it. Often people make wrong decision despite of the fact that their heart says that the decision is correct. But just to be different, just to be politically savvy, they create confusion in the society. So sense of belonging is most important, be it family, as I said, or be it a business where you're working, or larger picture, I belong to this nation, or this entire earth. If you go on expanding this concept of consciousness and happiness, Sarve Jana Sukhinam Bhava. May there be peace everywhere. May there be happiness everywhere. Not just within the country, but everywhere. All human beings. And why just human beings? Every soul, every tree, every plant, birds and animals are well looked after. May there be peace. This is the message of Vedas. And this can come only when we have the sense of belonging, that I belong to this existence.
The two of you and me differ because I think you're continuously talking about what should be. And my approach as a consultant, I always start with what is. What is? First of all, look at the reality. Then I ask myself, okay, what should be? But I have to start from reality. And it is my reality that I'm facing, and it's the following. Mr. Prabhu, you said a leader should provide a vision and mobilize the people toward the vision. For that you need the media. The media has to work with you. In a democratic society, you don't control the media. If you try to control the media, there is a tremendous upheaval and scream, oh, you know, it's becoming a dictator. The media is a different power. It's called the sixth power. And the media in a today's society, which is materialistic, they seek eyeballs. They're all fighting for eyeballs, for viewers. The Nielsen measurement, how many people are watching the program. And tell me which programs is being watched more? One which is constructive, the vision where we are going, or one that deals with scandals, corruption, problems, criticism. Which one do they go? Look at the media. I don't know about Indian media. I know the media, rest of the world, I worked in 52 countries. They are looking at the bottom line. And the bottom line is to criticize it, to criticize it, to criticize it, to criticize, and to tear the leadership down. Very difficult to mobilize for a vision unless you're a dictator. Unless you're in control. Some leaders, and I won't mention the names, and I work with some of them, they control the legislation because the majority in the parliament. They control, obviously, the executive branch. And they succeed to control the judiciary system too. Now, if they control the judiciary and the legislation and the executive branch, now they can control the media too, because the media is scared they will lose their license to practice. Now they can do something, they can provide, but now they are not democratic anymore. That's why probably Modi is being accused that he is not democratic enough. I probably believe it is. I don't know, but I believe. Oh, another, emerging, overly powerful. Same thing is happening in Mexico. United States is happening now big time. It's managing by what's called executive orders. And he's trying to tear down the media any way he can. Fake news, liars, corrupt. He's trying to control because you cannot manage without controlling. The moment you control, it's not democratic. Very difficult to provide leadership in a democracy. What you can do in a democracy, that's the danger. There is an expression I want to share with you. The difference between a statesman and a politician. A politician worries about the next election. A statesman worries about the next generation. But in order to worry about the next generation, you have to not worry about politics. But if you don't worry about politics in a democratic society, you're out of power in no time. So the reality here is very difficult to manage with the heart. My experience is when they're running for position, they talk from the heart. We need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we are going to do this, and we are going to do that. Bravo, they get elected. You cannot find them. Prabhu, I don't know your experience. You cannot find them. They don't have time to breathe. One of the guys that worked for me, and you're old enough to know who he is, after he got out of prison, he came to work for me. He was my associate. He was the second strongest man in the world. Time magazine called him the second strongest man in the world. His name was Bob Haldeman, the head of the White House under Nixon. He went to prison for Watergate. Do you guys remember Watergate, or you're too young to remember Watergate? And I said, it was my associate now. So we diagnosed, by the way, why Watergate happened. I know. I use PAEI. I know exactly what happened. And you know what he told me? We sat down and said, why do we have Watergate? Why do we have so many gates in the White House? Every president has a gate, some kind of a gate. It's not controllable. I looked at the schedule of Nixon. He got me the schedule. I put it on the table. Every 15 minutes, he tells what the president's supposed to do. He's a puppet. Go kiss these babies. Go say this. Go do that. Who is managing him? The scheduler and the public relations manager, public relations director. He has no time. When does he have time to think? When he goes to sleep. That's why his wife is extremely powerful. I found out a lot of leaders, Sharshela Pan, who is leading the country, really, if you really look at it, it is a spouse from behind. Milosevic. Who do you think was managing Milosevic? I consulted to Milosevic. I tried to stop the war in Yugoslavia, follow the breakdown of the Yugoslav Federation. Everybody thinks he was a villain. No, my friends, his wife. She was a nationalistic, she was controlling him totally. Look what's happening in Israel. That the wife of Bibi Netanyahu is telling him what to do. and she was never elected. So what we have here a problem is that time pressure, reacting to media, trying to stay in power, you are lost. Try to manage with the heart, yes, when you are not in power. When you get in power, different story. Unless you take power, like many leaders do. And I believe Modi is trying to do the same thing. To be in power so you can lead the country. Otherwise, you cannot lead the country. But then we have a problem with democracy.
You know,
Now, another thing I want to say, and then we'll stop.
one,
This is a Buddhist parable. A farmer is going to the farm, and he has a rope in his hand. At the end of the rope is a cow. So people say to him, "Why are you tied to the cow?" He says, "I'm not tied to the cow. The cow is tied to me." "Oh, really? So let go of the rope." "Oh, I cannot let go of the rope because if I let go of the rope, the cow will escape." Aha. What is the moral? What you control controls you. We try to control our leaders with rules and policies. Follow the rules and policies. They do. And now what happens? They're controlling us. You cannot move left, you cannot right. You have to go through the bureaucracy, which is incredibly complicated. And what's happening? We have too many lawyers in the parliament. They believe everything can be solved with a law. Another law, another law, another law, another law. The laws are growing. Rules. And what's happening? We are suffocating. To get a license to build something takes 3 years. Everything is difficult. And then what happens? Corruption. Because in order to make things happen, somebody has to find a way around because the machinery does not work. We try to control the government controls us. What we need in order to be more with the heart, we need more flexibility. What does it mean? We need to have, the heart will not work unless the blood flows. The energy has to flow through the whole body. I recommend governments continuously to change their law. I will tell you, here it is, I'll give it to you and then we'll finish. I've been trying to do it with every government I consult. Please have a ministry for debureaucratization. Minister for debureaucratization. His role is to continuously change the government, change the rules, take all the bloody laws and find out which one is not applicable anymore, especially in India. I will tell you why. The common denominator I found out from the countries that were once colonialized. The colonialists brought the rules. They brought the rules in order to control the country. They left the rules. The problem with colonialists is not what they took out of the country, it's what they left behind them. They left rules which is good for them, for Britain, but not good for India. I consulted to Ghana. What are those rules? The colonialists left. Nobody changed it. Then we need to have a ministry of debureaucratization. We need to have a ministry for values. Like a company, we didn't talk about companies. In a company, you should have a department for vision and values that constantly works on values. We should not assume that values will happen. We have to feed them, change them. And governments do not change. They only add rules and add rules and add rules and add rules. Eventually, who is managing the country? Not the politician either. The rules, the manuals, like can happen in religion. They start with the spirit. They end up with a manual. Now they follow the manual. Pray, put the hat, take the shoes off. They forgot the spirit. There is no heart. In an organized religion, there is no heart. The same thing with the government. They lose their heart because of the manuals, because of the rules. if they become the prisoners of what they created. Now I'm the prisoner of the cow. The cow is not my prisoner.
Lovely.
What do you say, Mr. Prabhu?
No, there are two, three very interesting prophecies, comments you made, and very interesting. One is you talked about how do you communicate unless you control the media. That's the first point you made. And I will tell you something very interesting. India today is divided into three countries. In 1947, Bangladesh was part of India, Pakistan was part of India. And India was huge. And there was hardly any aircraft. The train service were also not as good as they are today. They are not roads. The literacy rate of India was also less than 30%, around that time. So there are not many newspapers. There was no television. Radios were also like a luxury item. How did Mahatma Gandhi communicate to whole part of India, undivided India, about a need for freedom? And not just India. His idea of freedom, of emancipation, peaceful struggle, motivated people far away in United States, motivated people in other parts of the world. So how did he communicate? There was no media, but he could communicate. So he communicated through non-oral communication. His personality itself was a communication. His voice was not heard, but he was felt. People realized that what is Mahatma Gandhi as a person. And that really changed. And that's how millions of people got motivated, willing to live life. The people, very interesting story, just 1 minute I'll tell you. There was one woman, from a very good family, went to attend Mahatma Gandhi's lecture. And she was completely wearing all expensive ornaments. And when she was going, she heard Mahatma Gandhi saying, give whatever you have got and give it to the people, give it to the country. And she went back home with no ornament on her body. So everybody was worried, what happened? He said, no, I heard Mahatma Gandhi and I gave it to him. He said, you met Mahatma Gandhi? He said, no, I didn't meet him, but I gave it to somebody. How do you know he's the person? Because he said he was wearing a cap, which Gandhiji has asked people to wear. So that means he's the right person. So just imagine how much faith Mahatma Gandhi not only could invoke in himself, but also with his words, that if somebody is wearing a symbol of Mahatma Gandhi, he's a person to be trusted. Now the second, so this is something is a communication. So this is possible. How do you communicate? You can communicate like this. People know about it. You must have heart-to-heart communication. It is the most powerful transmission. If leader can transmit his thoughts to the hearts of people, people will understand it better, and that communication will be far, far better, bypassing all traditional media, and therefore there is no leader in other countries than India. You mentioned the country. In US, they're talking about fake media, lamestream media. There's no issue about that. It is heart to heart. The second part that you mentioned, very interestingly, is about the rules and how rules overwhelm the government. This is something which is very important, and you mentioned it, but just to give it a little more thought to it, what is the difference between religion and spirituality? The religion is always trapped into rituals, where the spiritual part of it is lost. So spirituality and ritualness not necessarily go hand. There are some great spiritual leaders who understand the value of rituals, but they try to make them subservient to spiritual. Because spirituality is a much higher plane. To reach spirituality, the religion shows the way. So I think we must try to work on that and do not make that as a hindrance, but a means of reaching the higher plane. So I think the rules in the government also should be like that. They should be governing the actions of society, should be facilitators for delivery. This should be able to advance the cause of good governance, but should not become the hindrance for reaching out to the people. And that's what is our leader's quality. In fact, I will tell you, and my personal experience about Prime Minister Narendra Modi is that he is never get overwhelmed by laws. Incidentally, in 2014, when he came to power for the first time, his slogan was that less law. In fact, I was the one who was
Wait. The slogan
less laws. less law. Laws should be less. Number of laws, number of rules should be reduced.
Good. Yeah.
The number of rules should be reduced. So in fact, I was in one program before he became the Prime Minister, when he made this statement, I said, our Prime Minister wants to move us from lawlessness to less laws. He wants from lawlessness to less laws. So lawlessness, it doesn't mean that we have laws and then we can have lawlessness. But if we can have less laws, we'll be able to. So point is well taken. And that is the role of leadership. The leader has a clear heart, and the feelings of others, that he can hear the heartbeats. See, the greatest leader job and a great leader is made of when he can hear the heartbeats of the people of this country. He's a leader of those whose heartbeats he can hear well. And that's why I've told you heart-to-heart communication. So I think this is what I would like to say, but very interesting comment that you made. And I think this is a different kind of gates that you talked about. I think we really have not to avoid the gates. The heart should be the right place so that there would not be any gates. There would not be any windows either.
I love it. Very nice.
Aji.
Well, something which I never thought of, what you have remarked. Leftover. Britishers did not take, but something they left over in many countries they colonialized. These colonialized countries, everywhere, they have the same, I think, baggage and burden. And I wish now, since Mr. Prabhu is with us, he has comfort zone with the PM, Prime Minister Sri Modi ji, to escalate some of your views perhaps and see how we can implement them. To me, number one is this. After listening to both of you, I'm not a politician. You are consulting a lot of PMs and presidents all across the globe. And Mr. Prabhu meets so many of them. He lives, he breathes politics. He is like a fish in water. I'm a foreigner to this. But I'm learning. And what I found that this leftover rules are burden, and hopefully one day our government will make sure that we have lesser and lesser laws. Dream of PM as well as many others is also the similar one. There should be lesser laws. But how to sail through without hurting many people in the process. So that's one big challenge we have. Second thing I like to put forward to it, though it's not our topic of the day, but I'm making a mention of it just because Mr. Prabhu is here. And it needs to be taken up further. See, we used, at one point in our ashram, we used to have almost 3,000 people working, 4,000 at times. And they're all young boys, 90% of them were boys, under the age of 30. Most of them are gone now. We are hardly left with 800 workers in the ashram at the moment. But whenever I saw them, they were walking around with the phone. I'm not against phones. But funny thing is, when you go nearby, what they were doing with the phone, they were watching videos. While working, they would be carrying bricks, but they would be carrying their phone also watching videos. And not just ordinary videos, that you feel ashamed to mention it also, that, those sort of video images they used to play it out, and half a dozen of them will, look at one video. They'll have bricks over their head, and 3-4 of them would be watching that video. And why is this fancy for it? How are they able to afford? It's because the government has made or allowed certain companies to sell this bandwidth at such a cheap rate. For example, Jio. Any fool can afford it. 100 rupees, 200 rupees, and you can have a broadband. And you can also have, God knows how many GBs free download is possible. And when a less educated person, even an educated person, always immersed in these sorts of videos, what happens to their minds? It ruins the nation. And largest part of India today is youth. And when youth is misdirected with sensual pleasures of that order, what happens to such country? When the youth is lost, radarless, always after senses, we're talking of heart. But such things are taking you away from the heart. They become heartless to such an extent that they are ready to even rape an innocent girl passing by because their hormones are raging because of constant watching. And this is one of the reasons why India had seen uprise, high numbers of rape cases. I attribute this to these free or very cheap internet services offered by Jio and many other competitors. The Jio is to be blamed. The rules has to be tightened. They must be tightened. I'm not for death penalties or this sort of that, but yet youth caught with such videos should be prosecuted and jailed. Moreover, all these things, phone services should be banned from providing such videos. If they are found sharing these things, they should be punished in millions, in crores. So this is my request and prayer to you, Mr. Prabhu, that these free distributions can be tightened.
No, I agree. I think we have to really, I take your point.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask question to question to Daji for something which I want to ask?
Please.
No, I just wanted to find out, and what I've understood, but I would rather hear from you, and that will also benefit all the other viewers. What is really at the heart of heartfulness?
Heart of heartfulness is this transmission. And what is this transmission? It's a sense of love. See, we are playing with words now. Love is one thing. We often talk of love, but nobody talks of essence of love. What can be the essence of love? What makes this love possible? Just as we have these particles, and behind the particles you have all these energies, and what is behind energy, no one knows. What is behind electron, no one knows. What is behind protons and neutrons, no one knows. We feel love. We feel it in our heart. But what promotes this? And when one meditates with this essence of love, we call transmission or pranahuti, and it reaches the heart, you cannot miss the impact of it. And I can confidently share this, that there can be thousands and thousands of varieties of meditation, but all these meditations can be elevated to a next level by using this transmission or pranahuti. Heartfulness way of meditation has many advantages in the sense that you meditate on the heart. When transmission reaches, there is a slow transformation in a person, slow but permanent. So transformation is slow, and deliberately it is slow. But if there is a very fast transformation in a person, he will not be able to recognize himself. He will not be able to, what can I say, be able to withstand that level of purity within that person. That consciousness will rebel so much. I can't handle it. People will feel dizzy with that level of purity. So slow transformation. And this is the beauty of heartfulness, and meditating on the heart and experiencing this. You see? Experience is the key of heartfulness way. There are not many dogmas. There are not many philosophies behind it. It's a very simple and practical system where you close your eyes and invite with open heart that I like to experience my higher level of consciousness. So please, God, help me. I don't know you. I wish I knew. First of all, I don't even know whether you're there or not. Most of us believe, but we don't know for sure. So we take it for granted. And just as in mathematics, we begin an equation. To solve the equation, we start with the supposition that maybe it is there. Maybe this plus this is this, or this plus this is not that. And in the end, we either prove it or disprove it. So with that in mind, some theories in behind, that I proceed with this idea, with the supposition that godly presence, that love is in my heart. And in the end, after going through the process, we experience and say, yes, it is present. If you don't experience, you can say, oh, I'm yet to experience. Don't deny it right away. Give it a 2-3 trials and see what happens. If you like, I can walk you through this process of meditation, and then I know you already experienced it, so there's no point, but for the benefits of people who are watching to experience this, I would say you can all sit with the closed eyes, and I'll be able to transmit and just remain receptive with an idea that this love is bubbling in your heart. The divine presence is already there in your heart, and you are imbued with those thoughts. So you can try this for about 15-20 minutes, and while we are at this, we will switch off these cameras, etc., and we'll be disconnecting, but you can continue to meditate for another 20 minutes to 25 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, but you're not going to do it now, right? Because we have 5 minutes to the end of the program.
We can begin now if you are done, unless you have to share something.
No, we can do it, but I don't know what is the program. Can we go beyond the 1 hour, or what? Are there any
No, that's
rules?
all. No, we'll now terminate the session from our side, and people can meditate, continue to meditate wherever they are. Yeah.
I want to close it in the last 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I'm kind of a realist, and my realistic approach is, if you want to have something done, intentions are very good, but what you need is the capability to execute your intention. And that's called power. Tell me, when I look at a boat, which engine is stronger, I will tell you which way the boat is going. I think that, Mr. Prabhu, about when you talked about Gandhi and you talk about Mandela, there are people, because of their spirituality, are capable, and personal example, they're capable of mobilizing people. Yes, they are. I mean, Jesus. I mean, Moses. I mean, Moses had a lot of difficulties, and still he led the people. They're very rare, Mr. Prabhu. I wish we can have many of them. They're very rare. Very rare. We have to work with what's available in the market, you would say, And I think the difficulty there is the following thing. Even the heart is not one heart. There are two parts to it. It's not one. The moment you have one person alone, it's very easy that it can take us in the wrong direction. Because, it is why, because. What is love? We just started with the word love. Love is a relationship. If there is no relationship, there is no love. What is love? A relationship. That's why I believe God is not in the heart. It's between us. God is between us. The heart is the channel through which we get to God. It's not there. It is an entry point to find God. Because the God is between us. If we want to have a loving relationship, do you hear the word relationship? Love in a vacuum does not exist. It has to be in a relationship. If I'm sitting in a seclusion all day long, never talk to anybody, I love, what do you love? What are you loving? You are loving in how you behave with other people. And that's what we need to do. If we want to manage with the heart, we have to control the relationships in the government, the relationship between the government and the people. We have to decentralize. We have to engage the people in self-government. Self-government. Love is in the relationship that we have to promote throughout the society. To open up, I believe in the town hall discussion. What should we do? And self-management, every city to manage itself, companies managing themselves, and then manage between ourselves. We have to promote the relationship if we want to manage with the heart. And what's missing in the government, in my judgment, is that we are trying to control the relationship with rules, with laws. We disempower the people. We are disempowering the people. And then we say there is no harm. Sure, because you said it, Mr. Prabhu. Big difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is starting with relationship. Jesus did not write one manual. It is the people after him, they wrote manuals, and now people follow the Bible and they forgot in the name of Jesus, they did Inquisition in the 15th century and killed my ancestor. In the name of Jesus and God. Because they follow the rules, they don't follow the heart. We need to have a department in the government, every government. I succeeded to do it, the government of Montenegro at least. We have a ministry for IT to try to digitalize the government so that we can make some changes because nothing happens. The lawyers are running the government. The lawyers are running the government, not the spiritual people. We need the ministry for debureaucratization. We need the ministry for vision and values, not public relations. No. Vision and values, to promote vision and values, ideology. What is it we stand for? Because we lose it. The government loses it the moment they start trying to govern. They lose it. It's easy. No, Odi has it. Apparently, you're telling me that he's mobilizing the people, he has a vision, but does he have the vehicle to deliver what his vision is? The vehicle is very, very important, guys. Love is important. Power is not to be ignored. You need the power to carry your love. If you don't have the power, you're dreaming. Now, Gandhi succeeded to get the power because he mobilized the people. If you succeed to mobilize the people with a very important message, freedom, they did not have freedom. He gave them a vision of what they all wanted. And he gave them a way how to do it, which is, resistance without power. Wow, now I have a tool and I have a vision. Bingo, let's do it. This is what's important. I think it's missing the vehicle to deliver our intentions. And the vehicle becomes more important than the vision. The vehicle now is what drives behavior, not the vision. The vehicle drives the behavior of the company, of the country, and the government. And I think that's what's missing, especially in countries that were colonialized. I consulted for Ghana. I consulted for Mexico was colonized by the Spanish. Whenever you have colonialists, they leave behind a legacy of colonialism that continues to run the country, which you don't want to have it, but you're run by the past. You're not run by the future. You're run by the past. You need to have a system that continuously changes you. Ministry of debureaucratization. Eliminate laws. Eliminate laws that don't. Russia has 3 different accounting systems. 3 different accounting systems. From the Tsarist time, from the communist time, from the market time. People don't know what to do. Now try to manage with the heart. You don't know what to do. So I want to summarize. Thank you very much. I think we are running out of time. We're going now to meditate after that. All the best. Thank you, Mr. Prabhu. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.